Meet David Marks.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
David Marks is an employee of WRSI FM, a local radio station in Massachusetts.
I am a media advisor, as they call it now. Sometimes I call it a liaison.
David came on the show looking for a connection, but instead he got this.
Wow. I like your ability to be like, okay, you have good things. Like, let's build on those things. Let's focus on what you have. Yeah, it feels a little bit like a therapy session in some ways.
Who is he? Where did he come from? What does he want? Where does he want to go? These are questions that have been lurking around in his head and is yet to be uncapped.
The first and foremost that I never would have thought of is just like, Dave or David, what is the name you're gonna go for? That takes away my goal, my vision.
Yeah. Dude, let's think bigger. Bigger. Do you think the Fairy BOSSmother will be able to get that out of him? They want you. That is the kind of personal brand I want to build for you.
Well put. I like it.
Or will it be a dead end?
I'm writing a lot of this down.
Boom, boom, boom. This one is quite the challenge. Let's do it. Go. It's breaking down the walls.
It's hard.
I'm Talyn, your Diplomat turned personal brand expert, and I help small business become premium brands for their business.
I always said I'll know myself when I'm 80.
You've got an opportunity to do that right now. Do you think I can figure out who the real David Marks is? Dude, what do I call you?
From now on, call me David, please.
David Marks, everyone. Let's find out. Now, before David came onto the show, I asked him a series of questions about him and what he wants to do. And this is some of the answers that he shared with me. So it's very unusual that I take somebody who doesn't have a small business owner, and David was an exception. So when I asked him what your business is all about and who you serve, David said that my business is all about advising businesses, small, large, local, and regional. Sounds like he does quite a lot of things. He also goes to say that he is advising them on their marketing, their outreach, and their story. Okay, so he could be an expert in kind of branding, I guess, but actually doesn't explain a lot about what he does and who he actually is when it comes to the kind of people that he's serving. So I'll be very interested to see how David talks about himself. Right, so when I asked him, what are your main goals for your business right now? David says to build some success stories. Learn, take it all in, to be ready to carry on the next generation. Okay, so this guy clearly wants to make an impact. He seems like a very impact-driven individual, somebody who wants to learn, get outside of his box. I'm very curious to know what motivates him. And then I asked him, what's the biggest challenge you're currently facing in reaching your goals? And he said, interesting, he said, old habits, old tradition. A lot of people who are skeptical. So it sounds like he is going through a little bit of a hump getting through to people. Now, I'm instantly thinking there is a communication problem here, because it doesn't matter who you're talking to in terms of a generational gap. If you're able to really get underneath and make a deeper connection outside of just business, that is probably missing for David. Last but not least, I asked him, have you done any work on your personal brand? And his answer is, not enough. Right now, it's social, reputation, relationships. My work speaks for itself. Sharing that with others would be good. I'm curious to see, again, what his actual role is, what he actually does, and how he fully presents himself to the outside world. So, having said that, let's meet David Marks. Hey, what's up, Dave? It's so awesome to have you on the Fairy BOSSmother Show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I usually ask all of my guests this question. Today, do you want the full-on Fairy BOSSmother? No filter, straight shooting, just giving you absolutely everything, or do you want the kitty gloves on?
Yeah, please be honest. Be real with me.
Right. I'm going to give David a pummeling today. No, in the nicest way possible, of course. So, David, what brought you here today on this show?
Well, I saw you in a meeting with a bunch of young professionals. Actually, I won't discriminate. There was people of all ages there, but just professionals looking to network, get their word out, be part of something. And I was like, I want to talk to her.
I'm just going to do a shameless little plug, but what was it about me that made you think, I need to talk to her?
Oh man, I don't know if it was I think it just might have been like the boldness, everything from your like backdrop to like how you talked to people. It was confidence and boldness.
Okay, it looks like my personal brand is working. So thank you so much for that validation for me because I don't get that feedback, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Everybody's thinking about it, so.
Oh, thank you so much. And David, I mean, this is not about me, this is about you. So, can you tell us who you are and what it is that you do?
I am a media advisor, as they call it now. Sometimes I call it a liaison. I'm an advisor for a lot of people managing their marketing in their own world, but also managing their relationship with radio and digital marketing.
Okay, and that took a lot of words for you to explain what it is that you do. Media advisor or a liaison. What made you go straight to liaison?
Well, when I started this job, there was like, they put a tag on it, they put a name on it, and then I thought more and more about it. Like, what am I? Who am I? What am I doing? And it all like came down to all the descriptors, all the like different things came down to liaison. Yeah, someone who is helping people make connections and helping advocate for themselves, but also create strategy, all kinds of things.
So, when you're engaging with a client, so I'm assuming they're business clients, right? If you're doing B2B and you're working for I guess, a media agency. So right now, is this a radio station that you're working for?
Yeah, we have 11 stations
Mm.
in the 91 corridor, and that's the roots of the company. And the company is very much trying to combine that with digital efforts as everybody gets on their screens. So the idea, to put it all into one perspective, it's like we're thinking oftentimes about the marketing funnel where there's familiarity and people knowing recognition and familiarity that people were creating at the top of the funnel, and then thinking just a lot about when people are making those decisions and choices, how can we follow them through that? Because historically, radio has always built at the top of the funnel, people's reputation and story, and then we kind of like let them go and trust that they'll find the people. And now the world is saying like, you don't need to let them go and let them trust that they'll find the people. You need to follow them through the process. So that's where the digital marketing comes in. I know that's a really long answer to you asking, are you radio? Yes, we are radio, but thinking more towards the digital future.
I mean, of course, because you don't want your company to be left behind. There's so much evolution in how people communicate, how people connect with one another, how people actually buy. And this is become a little bit more complicated now. You can discover a company and then still decide not to buy because of all sorts of reasons. And I guess from a branding perspective, that's where I come in to make sure that you are sending off the right message and you're not scaring off your prospect because of the way you're presenting yourself. Yeah. So I'm very curious, Dave, what made you decide this is what you want to do? I want to learn about your history. Like, what were you doing before this and what got you to where you are right now?
Yeah, I can keep this answer quick. I went to school for broadcast journalism. And it was there that I was learning to learn the facts, take the facts and boil them down into simple messages, and also learning how to tell people stories. And I actually interned for this radio station early on. Went into education and youth development for a while. Was in the beer industry rode that beer wave. Ended up back here, full circle.
Yeah, but what was the step before that, before you decided this is the thing that I really want to do?
Well, the step directly before that was I was driving all around New England to Rhode Island, Vermont, Mass, Connecticut, and telling a story for one company.
And that's what made you think, I want to do this for a living. This is the thing that I'm really passionate about. Or did you just happen to kind of like stumble across it?
Well, they came to me actually. It was really nice. Like I got recruited kind of for this. They came to me, they knew what I was up to. They knew a little bit of my history and were like, hey, what do you think about coming to be a media advisor over here?
So, David, I'm curious to know the way you describe yourself. Would you describe yourself as an introvert, an extrovert or somewhere in the middle?
I've always been an extrovert.
And that's what it kind of like draws you to people, to go to them, to speak to them, to like get to know them.
Totally. I thrive in that setting.
So what would you say are your main goals? I feel like this is like an interview question, like, okay, so what would you say are the things that really, really drive you? Because you're not in your own business right now, you're working for somebody else. What is the thing that keeps you working for someone else as opposed to saying, do you know what? I can do something a little bit better than what my employers are doing and be able to go off in another direction.
Two things, the longevity and the access to tools. There's a lot of tools that I have access to working for a company, and they are long-lived. So there's a promise there, having that structure, having those tools, having that foundation that doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. And then
I'm curious, what sort of tools are you talking about?
Yeah, like apps and resources and just like reputation. Those are all tools that I'm able to use and access by being here that I wouldn't have on my own.
Okay. Do you think you could use that confidently for yourself later?
Well, it's hard to do. It would be hard to do because this is an institution. There's a lot of not only power in this building, but just like elsewhere. So the natural progression, there's two progressions from this job. One is that someone who's doing this goes into focusing on marketing and outreach for one particular company. And then there is like an avenue where you go work for an agency that does this for people. And that agency is kind of like another middleman between the companies and the places like mine.
I would love to learn a little bit more about the type of people that you do like to talk to. What is it about them that makes you go, do you know what? I can talk to this person for a really, really long time, but then be able to convert them into a client or a customer or something, considering that you're working for an employer.
Sure. Well, it's all just building relationships. I like talking to anybody who's building something cool, to keep it really broad. Building something cool. And that can be better the brand, the better their message is, the more they believe in it, then the easier it is for me to be like, okay, we should absolutely get your story going with us.
Earlier, you said something really interesting to me, Dave, while we were off camera, and you mentioned something about not having a website and business cards. Can you explain a little bit more about where that conversation had started and why you're not even there yet?
Well, I do have business cards.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a card. Although even with a business card, I'm starting to think more about like when someone gives me a digital business card, I'm like, that's where we need to go, because they just pull out a little QR code and you scan it. But yeah, as far as website, yeah, it's a good question. What is holding me back? I mean, there's several times. I'm oftentimes serving people PDFs and forms and pieces of paper. And it's really clear. I mean, like anybody in our generation knows, like it's a digital future and should be digital on the web. I should have a page where people can look at my stuff, see what I've done, see my work.
Because you're talking about relationships, and that's the easiest way to build a relationship. Even if it's not face to face, you've introduced yourself or someone's talking about you. The first thing, I mean, I naturally do is I'm going to check you out. I want to check you out. I want to see who you are before I even speak to you, what your background is, what your history is, what makes you you, all of that. Just the basics of being a person. So Dave, if you're interested, I want to check you out. Have you ever Googled yourself?
It's been a while.
Okay, right. We're going to Google you right now. So I'm going to share my screen.
Wow, live.
Yeah, let's do this live. Are you scared or not scared?
I'm nervous. I do. It's been a while, but I know that there's a guy with my name who practices family psychology in this area.
Okay.
And so he often comes up.
Well, I'm just going to do a broad search because you have quite a common name. I'm curious to know what and who actually comes up. That's definitely not you. So we've got David Marks, American guitarist, 76. That's definitely not you.
Yeah, the Beach Boys. There was a David Marks and the Beach Boys.
Oh, so you already have a lot of competition for just your own personal identity, right? And if you keep going down, I mean, he's going to be your main competitor. Now, if there was one thing that you wanted to be known for, David, what would it be?
Radio.
Right. So let's type in David Marks radio and see what comes up. Right. So is this you?
What is it? Dave Marks radio? What?
All right.
Oh.
Yeah, let's make it bigger.
Yeah, I think is that me?
He doesn't even know. So it says if I was to open this up, it looks like this is I don't know if that's the same David Marks. I'm going to open this up out of curiosity. Okay, it looks like a band or an artist. I was hoping that would be you, but it's not.
No.
No, boo.
All right, what about scrolling down? Anything?
Scroll down. Right, so we got the Celtic Music Radio David Mark. I'm going to open this up. All right, that's not you.
Nah.
But there's another David Marks who is in radio, who's not you. So that's a little bit of a concern. And then we go down. Let's ignore the Beach Boy David Marks. This is the David Marks who is your absolute direct competitor. Who's this person? There's another radio person. It might be the same person. Oh my God, there's another David Marks who's an editor.
We're just made to do radio, us David Markses.
Yeah, this one, senior digital editor at KQED News, and that's David. So that's a different David. Yep, that's a different David for sure. Okay, that's two, and then that looks like you. Is this you? Let's go to LinkedIn.
There I am.
Okay. All right, so you're on LinkedIn. We had to go down a little bit further to see if that's you. And I won't even look at page 2 because page 1 is very, very important. Was any of that a shock to you?
It wasn't a shock. Like I saw it coming, but it got me thinking. It's like, yeah, I mean, I do the same thing with my clients. I'm like, let's search roofing near you, or let's search schools in Western Mass and see what we get. And so, yeah, doing that, I'm like, yeah, there's gotta be something to separate.
Yeah, absolutely. And considering that there's like, we looked at David Marks, big competition for you ever being found because there's a celebrity with the exact same name. But then even if we were to add a keyword radio, you still had competition because there's 2 other David Marks on the first page of Google who just happen to be in the same space as you. So you're absolutely nowhere to be found. And I think that's the first thing that we can do, David, is build your very basic foundational personal brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it seems like you don't actually have one.
Well put.
But that's fixable because you know there's a problem and there's an absolute solution to fixing that.
Totally.
And I'm curious to know, David, so online presence aside, what is your big, big dream? If there was one thing, if like there was no barriers whatsoever in the world, like no money issues, none of this, none of that, what would be the best dream case scenario for you? Where do you want to be?
Yeah, it would be being part of the future of this radio. I believe in this radio station being a great resource for a lot of people. I oftentimes describe it as a symbiotic triangle, whereas like the listenership and the businesses that do work with us and us, we all help each other. And so I very much would like to be a part of that in some way. That's always why I've been drawn to it. So there's that. And then, in general, I want my city, my town to thrive, Northampton. And so I have a lot of interest in that and what that might look like and what my role might look like in being part of that.
Okay. So do you ever feel like you might leave where you are now? Are you thinking of, what, once you leave Northampton, then what?
Right. That takes away there goes my goal, my vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, dude, let's think bigger.
Sure.
Forget about where you're living right now. Forget about the local communities, because I think you're stuck in a very insular box where you're thinking about where you are right now and you're thinking very deeply about it because you're saying, I want to stay in this company for a really long time. I want to continue building those relationships. I want Northampton to do really, really well because that's where I'm there and I want to make an impact. And I think I can see that you do want to make an impact, but you're not thinking about how, as David Marks, an individual, nothing to do with the company that you're with, how can you as an individual make a bigger impact with the people that you surround yourself with? And how can you make sure that whatever you're building, David, for yourself, you're able to move it anywhere in the world, so you're not constricted to just one tiny city? You're able to have multiple impacts no matter where you are in the world. That's how big I want you to think. Like, break down the walls.
Sure.
But I want you to do something really stupid with me, okay? If you look at the camera,
yeah,
I just literally want you to break down the walls. Just break down the walls like this. Let's do it. Go, 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 go. He's breaking down the walls.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yours is very stiff. Mine is like tissue paper. Barriers are gone, okay? Right? We're not thinking about your employment right now, okay? We're not thinking about where you are currently living, because imagine you have an opportunity somewhere else. Someone else has headhunted you and they are saying, wow, David, you are incredible. And I love what I'm seeing and how much you've done. where you are right now. I want you to pick yourself up, move over here so you can make that same impact in our town.
Yeah.
Right? Halfway across the country. But they don't want your connections. They don't want the people that you've surrounded yourself with, all the tools, all the apps or anything. They want you,
Right.
David Mark. That is the kind of personal brand I want to build for you.
Yeah. Well put. I like it.
When I say that, like, how do you feel? Do you feel like, oh shit, she's going crazy, or this doesn't make sense? Or
No, I feel like it's spot on. I feel like I'm like, holy shit. Like, yeah, that absolutely is how you should be thinking. It's refreshing.
okay. And another thing that I want to just clarify, because the audience don't know this, before we started the show, I asked you, what do I call you? Do I call you Dave or David? And you said, it doesn't matter. You can call me Dave or David, right? The reason why I asked this is because, okay, not only is your name quite common, it's quite a normal, a normal name, but dude, you are giving your control and power to someone else when you say it's your choice. Don't give someone else that choice over your name. If you want to be called David, say, I want to be called David. If you want to be called Dave, because it's a little bit more casual, say, I want to be called Dave, but retain that control 100% for yourself.
Love it.
Yeah. Hey, so what do I call you?
I got to think about it.
No, okay. This is your name. This is like the name that people call you.
Yeah. David.
Okay. So you're going to look me in the eye and say, Talyn, you're going to call me David.
From now on, call me David, please.
David Marks, everyone. Okay. That confidence, right? When you're owning your name, this is your name. That is the basics of your personal brand, is your name, right? It doesn't matter if there's a million Davids out there. This is David Marks. This is you. There's no one else like you out there, David. And again, these are the things that we need to pull out of you in order to build your personal brand. It's who is David Marks really? It's got nothing to do with, WRSI FM. It's got nothing to do with your employment. It's got nothing to do with the fact that you've got an education in the thing that you're doing. It's got nothing to do with the town that you're in. It's fundamentally, what is your story? What got you here right now? And then what are you going to do to use that story to your advantage to help other people? Because clearly I can see, David, you want to make an impact. You just don't know how yet to make it.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is because you don't fully know yourself yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that. I mean, people would be foolish to say that they know themselves. I always said I'll know myself when I'm 80.
Oh, come on. That's like a million years away. Like, really, right? You've got an opportunity to do that right now. But the thing is, you're always going to, even when you're 80, you're going to be learning things beyond 80. So you're always going to be learning. Your brand right now is the person you are today, not yesterday.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can have a life-changing experience right now that shapes what you do tomorrow. And then the same thing could repeat the next day. You're always going to be another version of you on a day-to-day basis. Like, let me give you a scenario. You woke out of bed, you feel like shit today, but you're not going to feel that way tomorrow. So even your emotions is something that you can't fully control. You just roll with it. And that's pretty much what life is like. You're just going to roll with it. But how much of that are you actually retaining control over?
I'm writing a lot of this down.
I know, I can see that you're thinking while I'm talking, and I'm just like, boom, 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 and just kind of like throwing things at you. The best way to put it is there's an outer shell. This is going to sound weird. I'm going to describe you as a peanut, okay? You're a peanut. Sure. There's a really, really hard shell, and there's something really good inside. We just don't know what that is yet. I don't think you even know what's inside.
Yeah, especially the last 5 years, I've always tried to have these visions and categories of what I wanted to focus on, what I wanted to be, what direction I wanted to go in, instead of thinking about myself, And I've always said just be your best self and be who you want to be, but I never really dug in to be okay, define it, create it.
Because when you do that, David, again, you're controlling your narrative. When you say something about yourself, I'm going to believe you, right? I'm just going to believe you because it's coming from you. Why should I second guess everything that you're telling me? So when I was asking that question, what's your story before you did your degree? I don't think you were able to still tell me what that was.
The story before I got my degree?
What made you choose that specific? I mean, there's thousands of subjects out there. You chose this Now, you probably were influenced by someone or something. Something happened in your life that made you go, your family could have something. Like, I'm just taking a guess. There's a lot of external factors that help you make a decision that may or may not be right for you. Now you're in a situation where, okay, the degree's done, you're in an employment, someone found you, someone hired you, you're now retained, you're in this great city, you want to make a change and impact, you don't know how, but you're determined to get it done. You just don't know how. And I think that how, once you figured out, you know what brought me here? Like, really, what brought me here? What brought me to Northampton? Was it a person? Was it a thing? Was it just a whim? Were you born there? Like, let's uncover some of this. Why are you in Northampton right now?
Well, two reasons. One, from a summer camp that I worked at, and two, from this radio station that I interned at. Between the two of them, I was like, this is where I want to be.
Okay. Where are you from, David?
But I always said, I'm from the Hartford area, which is, just an hour south.
Okay, yeah.
So close. I always said my short answer is the people. Like, there's a bunch, like, yes, the summer camp and the radio, but like there was people in those settings that like inspired me. And then I saw and was like, I like that. I want to be part of that. And so I really liked the mindset here and the beliefs in like in community and stuff like that. So
okay. So I think one of the things that you can like definitely take away from our interaction today is writing that down. The reason that I'm here is because, and put that in writing, just like one word, maximum two. What was it about the people's mindset that made you go, I really like this? Give this a label, give it multiple labels. And once you start to see what those labels are, David, then you're going to start to see a clearer picture of, I didn't know I thought like this, but now I'm able to see what those descriptions are. And then you'll be able to better articulate, I'm gravitated towards this because, and then all of a sudden, there's like descriptions to why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Mm-hmm. Right. And then we can start to dig a little bit deeper on, again, who is David Marks? Because I think David Marks has been around for a while. You're not a baby, right? You've been around for a while. You've done things in your life. You've experienced things in your life, and it's shaped the person that you are right now talking to me. And when people see that side of you, not only are they going to gravitate towards you, just like you were gravitated towards me, they're going to gravitate towards you automatically because they're sensing this vibe. Someone who is very self-assured, yourself, right? And then when you're talking to someone, you're able to connect with them on a much deeper level that is outside of just being superficial or, hey, you could be a future client, I just want you.
Totally.
Yeah, so you're digging through those layers and you're finding a connection with the other person, and it just means a lot more, and then you're able to make that deeper impact with them.
Mm-hmm. I've already kind of tapped into that mindset, and I do have elements of that already with like a certain type of talking to people.
Yeah.
And
it makes sense if you describe yourself as an extrovert. It makes sense that you feel like you can go to someone and talk to them because you're not shy about doing that.
Right.
And guess what? A lot of people are. So you've already got that working in your favor.
Right.
Yeah.
Well said. Good point.
Okay. So we're going to wrap up just a little bit. So you don't have a website. You don't have anything that claims you as David Marks online. So when somebody checks you out, you do have a LinkedIn. I'm going to look in your LinkedIn. Let's do that. I'm going to use your LinkedIn as, he says, uh-oh, what did he say? Uh-oh. Okay. So how old is this picture?
Not that old. 2023.
2023. Okay, that's not too far. Why is it black and white though?
I don't know.
Okay. So I think it will be better if it's colored because black and white is also similar to you wearing sunglasses. Like, people are not seeing the full you.
Okay.
And then you have this image. What is this image? What's happening here?
It's just my friends and I playing baseball. Just to add some relaxedness to this whole professional, this website that gets perceived as like a professional platform. The thought was to make it lighthearted and like be fun so people realize, I'm a fun guy.
All right. So what is the purpose of being on LinkedIn for you?
That's a good question. I don't have a really good answer just because like I need to be on there. I need to be searchable. I can't not be on there. That's kind of like my outlook, I guess.
Did someone say, David, you have to be on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn?
No, nobody said that.
Okay, so no one's told you to be on LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn because you felt like you had to be on LinkedIn. Let's make it better, right? So I noticed that one of the things that you don't have here is you have your name, David Marks, and then you add your name, David Marks again. Now this here, you can say that you're a media advertiser. You're a media advertiser helping to promote small business owner in Northampton or something that really describes your role right now. And then that way, when somebody is looking you up, then they know, okay, David Marks, he's local to Northampton or Massachusetts. He's a media advertiser, media liaison, or whatever you want to give yourself that title. It makes it a little bit more clear on who you are and, you know, the kind of businesses or connections that you're looking for. And earlier you said that you're all about building relationships and building connections. This could be the main platform. This could, like, instead of having a website, this could be your website because you're representing a business, right? We're going to fire that up a bit. And then the about page. Yes, I actually expected your about page to not have a lot. So I'm just going to read this out loud. So my ultimate goal in life. Oh, you have a goal in life. Okay, let me see. My ultimate goal in life is to surround myself with good people. So far, I've been fortunate to have met this goal. I want to continue to be around people with positive attitudes and outlooks, which is very accurate to what you've said so far. And I have a wide variety of vocal skills. Dude, do you sing?
Yes.
Oh, it's a singer. And I also love the sport of hockey. Okay, I love that. Those two things I didn't know about you. That's awesome. So here, what's amazing for you, David, is again, it's your story. Like, what's your story? What brought you here? Why is it so important for you to be surrounded with good people with positive attitudes and outlook? What does that actually look like? How does that make your community better? And what kind of impact could that make when you were working in amplifying your business? If you want to promote your business, you want to promote your business in a environment that is positive and does flourish.
Yeah.
So you're putting yourself out there for the purposes of connecting with business owners because that's your job, but more deeply you want to connect them to your media agency because that's what you're doing. But there's very specific types of people that you're looking for, and over again you said positive attitude is a number one criteria for you. If you don't have a positive attitude, I don't want to talk to you. They need to have a positive outlook. If you have a negative outlook, I don't want to talk to you. And these are good because you've given yourself a filter on the kind of people that you want to attract. But we need more. We need, like, you've got this much. We need to go.
All right. Yeah, we can do that.
All right. Well, you've got loads of experience here listed. So it seems like you've got a lot of like overlapping, like internships and that kind of stuff. If there's overlaps, include the most important ones and get rid of the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be some baggage there.
Definitely. You don't want to sound like you just came out of college and you got yourself your first job and that's the impression that you're leaving.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. If people want to know all those little details, we can get into it.
Yeah, which people really don't.
Yeah.
I think what the whole purpose of LinkedIn is to promote yourself as an expert in this one thing that you're doing right now. Right? So I think we can get rid of like any sort of like residential that's fine. Reporter, that's great because that's like 3 years worth of experience. And then, but then that overlaps with business manager with WWLR. But then you were an intern at this time. So I think you have to make a decision. Which one of these experiences am I willing to cut? Because it makes you look a little less serious. And then which ones are you willing to like amplify a little bit more?
That makes sense. Yeah.
And the other thing I would recommend is you mentioned projects, but there's no information about those projects. So what about those projects were you really, really proud of? And what kind of impact did you make on these personal projects?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot that you can do just on LinkedIn. Forget about all the other social media. Don't even look at a website. It's not relevant right now. That is the thing that you can use to start attracting those positive people, those business associates, anyone and everyone in Northampton. Those should be the first people that you're connecting with on LinkedIn. You know, your circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we're wrapping up now. Would you say, David, was some of the things you learned from the Fairy Boss Mother?
Wow. I mean, I like your ability to be like, okay, everybody's thinking on a certain track and like that makes sense. That track is good for a lot of things, but like let's zoom out, look at the bigger picture here. Yeah, some of it's actually like a bit therapeutic in a lot of ways because it's just like thinking like, okay, like you have good things. Like let's build on those things. Let's focus on what you have. You already have all of this stuff. You just need to do it right. So yeah, it feels a little bit like a therapy session in some ways.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So what are you going to work on as soon as we're off? What is the first thing that made you go, Talyn has said this one thing. I need to get started on this one thing.
Well, the one thing, the first and foremost that I never would have thought of and is just like Dave or David. What's the name? Like, what is the name you're going to go for? That I want to put some thought into, and it might not be as simple as just Dave or David. It might be like Dave Marks with an X, or David Marks, one word, like, so, I don't know. But I do agree that it needs to be something more that sets me aside from, in the digital world, sets me aside from all the D Markses. So that's first. And then second would be getting that LinkedIn going.
Yeah, that's awesome. I cannot wait to see the way you're going to evolve yourself, especially when it comes to what the hell people even call you. You're in control of that. No one else is. And then once you figured out even just like the basic identity of who you are, guess what? All of a sudden, you are in that driving seat. You are in full control of who you are, where you want to go, what you want to become, and the person you will eventually be inside you. So you have a lot of really great things going for you. Just need to tighten things up. And again, David, I'm going to ask you to do this one more time. Break down the rules, dude. Break it down. Break it down right now. Break it down. Yeah, it's getting a bit easier. Yes. Awesome. Well, hopefully, David, this wasn't too much of a boxing session for you. And
No, not at all.
I haven't completely scared you off.
No.
Well, thank you so much for being part of the Fairy BOSSmother Show.
Thank
and
you.
We stay in touch.
Be in touch. Thank you, Talyn.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Fairy BOSSmother Show and you're a small business owner, apply to be a guest on the show and get your very own live brand review. You can apply by going to my website, www.bossdiplomat.com, or snap the QR code on this video. See you soon.